Pastor Mark, back again, another Bible study on Wednesday, the 12th of April. I would like to talk to you today about compassion. Compassion. Last week we celebrated Easter, and thinking about the compassion that the Lord has toward us, what He did for us. It's moving, and it should be. But there are times in our lives where we are faced with situations and we feel compassion, either toward someone or toward a situation. And today I would like to talk to you about compassion. So this probably won't be very long, just mentioning that. Not that that's so much important, but hoping that you'll stay with me through this short Bible study and get the point here. So first, I want to read to you from the book of 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 17th verse. I'm reading from my Bible app on my phone. Excuse me. It's something in my eye. It's been bothering me since about 20 seconds ago. Nevertheless, we press on. 1 John chapter 3, the 7th verse. But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him, how does the love of God abide in him? I'll read also from the Good News. That was from the New King James Version. I'm going to read also from the Good News translation. It says, if we are rich and see others in need, yet close our hearts against them, how can we claim that we love God? Interesting. Also, from the book of James, chapter 2, I'm going to read verse 14 through 17. So 4 verses there. Verse 14. Reading from the New International Version on this one. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? The King James Version says action. I believe. No action. Works. It says works. Sorry, some other translations use the word action. King James Version uses the word works there. Can such faith save them? Meaning, you say you have faith, but there's no action, nothing that shows that a person has faith. And here's the example James gives. Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? It's a good example, isn't it? Verse 17, in the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Wow. Compassion. And these few verses that I've shared with you today speaks to needs and someone else having the ability to do something about it. As Christians, we are commanded in the New Testament to do good deeds, good works, to have some action that shows we serve the Lord in our faith. And some of those include helping those that are less fortunate and that have needs. And it isn't always just someone that's homeless. Sometimes you become aware of a neighbor or someone at work that suddenly has a need. If we can do something, even a small contribution toward it, and I'm not just talking about money, sometimes it's things. It's an important thing. A few years back, several years ago, when we were still over, our congregation was still over on South 20th Street, we had a large connection with a significant population of the homeless. in that part of the neighborhood. And a man that I worked with um, knew that, knew I was a minister, and he knew that um, our church was, reaching homeless people at the time. And he approached me and said that he had a lot of socks. Well, I didn't know what a lot of socks meant until I saw it. He says he'd like to donate some things. He had old coats and things like that he wasn't going to use anymore. And then he asked me, he says, is there something particular that could help more than another thing? And I said, well, it was coming on to winter time at the time. That's important to know too. And I said, it's really hard to find socks, good socks. And he says, oh, I've got socks. I have a lot of socks. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so you have a bunch of socks. So he gave me his address and asked me to come by his house later that week. And I did. And I'm not making this up, folks. He gave me one of those big green, dark green colored, almost black garbage bags. It was full of socks. Full of socks. Thick socks, everyday socks, cold weather socks, dress socks, gym socks. I'm talking about socks. That man he wasn't kidding. He had a lot of socks, and many of them had hardly or never been worn. So I asked him, what in the world were you doing with all these socks? Well, his wife was there. This was at his home. And she said he just keeps buying socks. Well, I took the socks from him, and I went to the church on Sunday. And at that time, Brother Duncan Blair was bringing a whole school bus every Sunday full of homeless people. And I'm not sure how many that could be, 40, 50, a lot of them. And there was a room we had down in the basement where there were some clothes and things. If anybody needed something, they could go in there and get them. And it didn't cost anything. And I took that big garbage bag of socks in that room. And a few minutes later, Sister Jolene came to me and said that, I'm going to use my own words. I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said it was like piranhas on a fish in the water. There was just this big mobbing thing once the people found out there were socks there. And bless their hearts, those people were able to get some socks. Well, what am I saying? That particular man that I was working with, he's also a Christian. He doesn't go to our church, but he attends church at another church in the area. And when he heard there were people that were having a hard time finding socks, and he had more than he needed. In fact, he was never going to use those socks. He told me that at a later time. He said he realized he was never going to use them. And instead of just taking them to Goodwill, where they will turn around and sell them, he said if they could do some good to someone, he wanted to do that. That's exactly what James and John in these passages was referring to. Compassion. He learned of a need. He had something that he could do something about, and he did it. Now, I'm not elevating this man or saying, hey, you should be like him. It's one reason I didn't mention his name, in case you folks meet him one day. I don't want you to say, oh, you're the guy with the socks. He would be very embarrassed. In fact, he specifically asked that I give that he give that to the church and that need anonymously. He did not want a receipt for a donation for use on his taxes. He completely wanted to be anonymous, and what we do in secret, God said He would bless us openly with. So God bless him for that. So what am I saying? When we as people of the Lord learn about a situation that somebody has a need, if we have the capacity to help in any degree, we should do so. It doesn't mean you take the whole burden on. But if that's what you feel like you should do and you have the capacity to do that, then that's what maybe you should do that. But if you can contribute in some small way, maybe you heard a family down the street, maybe the parent, both husband and wife lost their job and they've got a house full of kids. Well, they're probably going to need some groceries. They're probably going to need something like that. So it may not hurt to ask them if you could help bring them some groceries. And if you can, what is it that they need? Oftentimes, when we were running the food bank all those years, we had piles of canned goods. I mean, we had piles of canned goods and other things. And sometimes people would come in and they would say, do you have toothpaste? Do you have soap? Do you have some toothbrushes? Things that maybe we hadn't thought of. So another time I went out getting some stuff for the food bank. I got a whole Rubbermaid bin full of toothpaste and toothbrushes and soaps and deodorants and things like that. Because those are things that suddenly we were aware of that some of these folks were needing. That, we had piles of canned goods, but that wasn't what some of those people needed. They actually needed some other things. So thinking of things like that, I'm just using that as an example, simply to say, when we, as the people of God, that's people in general should have a general compassion, but we as Christians ought to more so, because Christ was compassionate on us, and we should be compassionate with others. And when you hear of something, if you can contribute something, even if it's if someone needs something and it's if you make a casserole, or you take a bag of apples over, or you give us a small monetary contribution, or maybe you give a large donation if you're able to. Whatever you're moved on to do, that's what we ought to do as individuals. Compassion. Because if we know of it and we don't do it, John said, how can we say that we have the love of God in us if we're not expressing that and allowing the Lord to work through us to reach someone? It's important. Doing good works. Doing good works. It could be as simple as maybe your neighbor was injured, or you found out someone at work threw their back out and they need their yard mowed, and you just go over and mow their yard. That would be a tremendous help to someone that in that situation wouldn't be able to do that. Things like that can somehow go a long way. Compassion. Compassion is more than just having pity. It's doing something about it. Well, I hope this short Bible lesson is reaching you, and I hope it means something to you and blesses you today. That's what I was wanting to say. I hope this is a blessing to you today. Well, God bless you. I'd like you to keep Sister Pat Harrell in your prayers. She's still in the hospital. Before Pastor Howie left a little over a week ago to go on his drama trip to California, he told us that Sister Pat was taken to the hospital. Well, she's still there, and she's not doing amazing. She's not horribly bad, but she's not doing very well, and we need the Lord to touch her. We haven't seen her at church in a long time because she has severe osteoporosis, I think it's called, where she can break. If you give her a hug too hard, you can break her ribs. She has it bad, and sometimes just bumping things at home, she's been breaking bones and so forth for a couple of years now. But we still love you, Sister Pat, and we know that God is working on your behalf. So keep Patricia Harrell in your hearts and minds, and lift her up to the Lord today specifically. And I know that there are many other needs as well. God bless you. We hope to see you this Sunday at 10:30 at the True by Hilton. We had a great crowd last week on Easter. We had to bring in extra chairs, and that was a fantastic thing. It would not be a hard thing for everybody to come back and be there this week as well and bring some more friends. It'd be great if we had to bring extra chairs every week. That'd be okay with me. Well, God bless you. We love you. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.